Hello, I'm Dirk-Jan Faber from Victron Energy. In this video I'm going to analyze the Node-RED flow from the horse farm. Alright, we're taking a look at this Rigobert Kalt site, which is a German or Swiss site, so some things may be in German, but I'll translate if it's needed. Well, we see that it's using the Node-RED, and it also has a Node-RED dashboard. I'll open both of them on new tabs. That takes a short while. So let's see what we have here. We have first thing I notice is we have a lot of tabs, and some of them seem to be disabled, which is a neat trick. If you have a part of a flow which you don't want to use yet, you can double click it and you can disable it here. So if you look at another one, double click it, you can see that it's enabled here. So if you click it here, it becomes disabled and then enabled again. So that way you can have some parts which aren't production yet, are just used for testing. You can disable those. You also see a lot of comments here, and some things are grouped together, which is a neat way to have certain functions grouped, making it easier to check your flow. I can show you how to group stuff. Oh, this is a really large flow, but well, I can just show you how you would group things together. Like if you have these things, you can then first select them all, and then right click, and then you have the group selection, which you can also give some comment or a color comment. This is only a test. Fill it green. Done. So you have text here. All right, but what else do we have on this side? Because there's a lot going on with a lot of comments as well. This is limiting the amount of messages which is coming through, which is done with the delay node. And it switches here, it changes some settings, sets the message topic, sets the payload, also stores the value in the global context, which we've seen in the previous video, which is also linked below. In the context data, we have a lot of values here, and also some local ones. Also on this side, I noticed that the same trick is used, which I showed you before. If you click the node status here and deploy it, and then you get the last received value in text below, which is really handy for debugging stuff. And we also have here the links to other tabs even. So it's not only within this flow, but this one also goes to another tab. And you also see, well, this one I clicked, and that way you can switch between one flow and the other one, which is really handy. What else do we have? Oh, I see that this function node also uses this node status, which I showed before. You set in a fill, you set in a shape, and you set the text. And this text is constructed of several things. It gets some value from the flow, and some actual text, and another part also taken from a flow, and then adding the payload, making stuff easier to see what's going on, because this payload is a multiplication between the akku-groepen and the message payload. And there it shows what the actual value will go out to the other nodes. What else do we have here? Some inject nodes are used. They are linked together. So this one goes into this one, and that goes into that one, or at least it looks like it, but it's not. It's just one on top of the other, making it a bit more compact to use. And this is probably only setting some test values or injecting it manually, overriding values which get set. That's the way how you would use inject nodes. So set it to a certain message payload, and you can set the state of charge or fake it for a short while. Here's some more function nodes which convert seconds to hours by just dividing it by the number of seconds within an hour, 3600. And it's doing the same here. This is an interesting part of the flow, because this uses the VRM API node, which allows you to query a lot of things with a lot of data which is available on VRM. All you need to do is configure VRM side ID, which you can also have using one of the context values, and you need to configure it once with a VRM token. And the VRM token is something that you would generate once in your VRM preferences, which is described. I think it's described in the not in here, but if you click here, I have this link to the documentation, and if you click on this link, that's the documentation. Oh, there it is. Then you can create a new access token and generate once create token. Oh, you need to fill in field. Now we'll say a horse farm. Create token, and then you can copy and paste the token into the API node in the configuration, and then it allows you to get a lot of data from VRM. If you go to the API documentation, you can see you can get a lot of these data points are available on the VRM API node. If you're missing data, that can also be added. You have to ask me. to get it added. Let's go back here. So this stores like a lot of statistical data, solar yields, data, and consumption data, forecasting, BT, BC, battery to grid, battery direct use data, and it stores it all in different and this is this is adjusting the message topic, and then it passes this through to a dashboard, does some calculations with it. So it shows all the data which comes from VRM on a separate dashboard. This is data used by the dashboard node, which we'll take a look at in a moment. It's limiting some data. This one is a join node, which joins, in this case, 3 messages together. Oh, and this is a dead end, but it's doing some calculation here. Not sure what it's used for. It's also not used further on. What else have we got here? Oh well, let's go back to the VRM data first. Well, yeah, it's also here. This joining data. Perhaps this leads here. And also adjust the data again. Oh, well, and makes it into a graph, a line graph. We can take a look at the dashboard, which I opened already here. So this is a way, it's probably on one of these tabs, you can generate your complete own site, which you can use as an alternative for VRM if you have specific data which you want to show. And there's a lot of options, and you can also, don't want to see things that's just the same as on VRM, but well, you're more, you've got more options to adjust the settings of our adjusted graphs in your own specific user need. No. And that has really some neat stuff. Okay, let's go back to Node-RED. Let's see, oh, it has some notes here on which palettes have been installed in order to get this part of the site working. Extra nodes can be installed via the palette manager. If you take a look, there's quite a lot of extra nodes installed. I don't know all of them, but well, there's loads and loads of nodes to be found and installed. One is definitely better than the other one, but so if you take a look at the next tab, this also has some extra contrib remote. I'm not sure what this one does. It looks like it's mainly used for debugging and perhaps for notification. Not sure what this is. The access now allows you to access a website locally. Oh, so you may be able to use this node to get remote access to the site, just like a VPN would. Yeah, and this one, you can configure it to play a message if something happens on your site. So this is a neat one. I might even use it myself. You can always, if you click on the node, you can check with the documentation thing, button, whatever, how to use this node. You can do it for, oh, well, this one has only limited documentation. Yeah, nice. Let's see what else we have. This is probably all dashboard specific because of the name dashboard. Not too much things going on. Like it has some specific, like we saw this long horizontal graph, how do you call it? This is, I think it was on this side, this part, like this accustand, the charging, the state of charge of the battery. And that's probably created by this node. So, correct. Let's see, there's a lot of nodes to go through. I'm not going to check everything, but the way this site is organized is really neat. Do we have anything special which I haven't checked yet? Oh yeah, you see here, this is only, this has part of the flow disabled. If you double click it, you can also disable just a single node part. I added one here below. So for this one, you can disable this part. And then deploy, which is also really neat. So this node no longer functions, but this one does. Well, this is disabled. And if you only modify a part of the node, which I now did, you can also say, well, I only want to restart and deploy the nodes that have changed, which usually makes deploying go a bit faster. By default, I believe it's only doing the modified flows, but you can also do the full and deployment. Let's see, do we have something else, which is temperature sensors. By the looks of it, it uses a node that sends an email out if something happens. So this is an email send node. So for reporting, you can also use Node-RED. This is using Modbus to read out different voltages. Which is a bit cryptic. You read out a specific Modbus address, and then you get a value back. This is a way how you can read out some other devices on your network. and use that information just to, well, make some calculations or steer, say, your the amount of power you want to go into your batteries. Also, you can use Shellys, which are usually used for measuring or switching equipment. There's some dashboard nodes here as well. And this is really neat, organized. It even has, oh, this is a nice one. It is a remote API, which may not have been used. I'm not sure how much this is used, but this is using the HTTP in node to get some data, and it uses this URL, which I put in my copy buffer, and then it returns some data, which it, well, takes some context data and then it puts it in a payload and returns it, and then sends it out using the HTTP response node. These nodes are just in here in the HTTP response node, and this is the HTTP in node. Once you have these deployed, which this site has, I'll go to the modify the link starting at UI and then put in the copy buffer. Take a look. Oh, it has an extra slash. Remove that, and then it should get the data, which it does. So this is a way, if you want to use something like Home Assistant to get data from your Node-RED install, you can use these nodes. This is nice. Yeah, and well, that's the last one. So I think I'll leave it for this analyzation of the flow. I thank you for watching.